Welcome to Livestream. Sabotage. That is a banger. What's going to be an ASMR live stream today, guys? I mean, I could just chug it straight from the jug. My son saw me making this, and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "Blood." And he's 6, by the way. It matters. He said, "Really?" I was like, "No, it's not blood. Don't drink blood." And then I was like, "Well, I mean, some people, you know, like black pudding and but I decided we weren't going to get into that." He's not gullible, but he puts a lot of faith in the things I say. You know, and hey, I mean, the world is full of weird shit. Like, for a 6-year-old, they ask a question and, like, you know, sometimes the answer is just wild. Wild. You know, and it's true. So, like, if he's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's blood." "Yeah, you drink blood." "What are you talking about?" "Of course, it's a blood drink." That's not the weirdest thing that you would tell a 6-year-old. So, anyway. Welcome to the live stream, guys. Yeah, we got a regular T-shirt on today. No fancy bougie clothes. I felt like wearing just a good old T-shirt today. Should really say right hand circular polarized. I guess we're being different. A lot of people are asking questions about my keyboard. Blunty, it doesn't look like you queued. Oh, you did. You queued one. Okay. I was going to say, it doesn't look like you queued any of the very important questions about my keyboard. trying to filter trying to editorialize by saying, "Oh, okay, I take it back. I take it back." I problem prone. I can't decide if you're being sarcastic because some people complain about how loud. People complain about how loud is it? Hold on. I'm gonna switch over to monitor so I can hear. People complain about how loud my keyboard is all the time. That's not, I mean, whatever. It's a keyboard. Like, I have a keyboard. It's on my desk. I'm going to type during the stream. These are cherry browns. These are the quiet switches. I could have blues. I had blues. I liked them. And I switched to a keyboard that had browns because I live stream and I do calls and I wanted to be respectful. Browns are one of the quietest of the mechanical switches. So, you know, it is what it is. You guys got to live with it. It was probably quieter before I got this overhead mic. This overhead mic points like at my chest, but like it is probably more directionally oriented on the keyboard than the condenser mic that I used to have. But, you know, now we don't have a microphone on screen. It looks like a professional streamer, and I got to say, I think it's all worth it. Just come down here just a smidge. I hate it when my head breaks the plane of the camera. Browns are I mean, they're mechanical switches. I'm not going to I'm not going away from a mechanical keyboard. That's not happening. Anyway, it is what it is. You're gonna like it. You're not gonna like it. I'm gonna type on my keyboard. I'm gonna drink. If that drives you crazy and you can't watch, well, yeah, I don't know. What are you gonna do? You need some AI noise removal. You can listen to the live stream through AI. People pay extra for that. Clinking and tinking. Right? You gotta get like. Right? It's on my OnlyFans. You pay extra for that. I don't know why people have problems. All right. We're going to answer questions. Here's a question from Sky. Sky F, thank you for being a patron. Sky's in the Discord. That's how I know he's a patron, because patrons get in the Discord, and the Discord is the place to be. Skydozer says this is really doing it for me. I'm afraid that you're going to have to, rewind the stream because that's all I'm doing to that. What do you think about the sudden influx of 3.5-inch builds exploding on the internet when it seems like everybody is doing them now? I think 3.5 inches is a great size for a drone. It is the smallest drone that still feels like it's fun to fly without any compromises. Now, obviously, there are some compromises, but to me, that's like roughly where I draw the line. Sorry if that made a bad noise for the people on the stream. That's roughly where I draw the line is around 3.5 inches. And I think it's fantastic. I think that we have seen a lot of development in the motors in the 3.5-ish size class. Motors have gotten better and better and better, and you can just fantastic performance out of a 3.5-inch drone. If you're willing to go over 250 grams, it gets even better. But even if you're trying to stay under 250 grams, you can get a really good drone. So I love it. I hadn't noticed an influx of 3.5-inch builds, so that's interesting that that's a trend. I'm, far from like the trendiest of the trendsetters, but if that's true, I'm happy to hear it. Like if you want me to explain why it's happening, my guess would be the 250 gram limit. We saw a lot of interest in 3-inch builds when the 250 gram limit, remote ID specifically, when the remote ID came in. The 250 gram limit also applies to registration, and of course this is in the USA, FAA things. If you're outside the USA, well, why are you still awake? Okay, there's people on the other side of the date line where it's morning. But when remote ID happened, that really kicked people in the butt. It's so funny to me because, like, it's so funny to me what people do and don't pay attention to. I've talked about this before. I won't get off on a rant, I promise. But, like, you're breaking all these rules and you don't care, right? A lot of you don't have a ham license. You're not flying line of sight. You're breaking all these rules and you don't care. And then the FAA comes out and says, remote ID. And for some reason, a whole bunch of people were suddenly like, all right, that's it. I'm out. Like, just, okay. I'm not advocating for you to break a rule, but like, you're already breaking a bunch of rules. What's one more? Just break that rule and keep doing what you're doing. You don't care. So it's kind of funny to me that the remote ID came in and a whole bunch of people went, I must build a sub 250 gram drone. I'm like, why? You didn't care before. What do you care now? There's no enforcement. No one's enforcing this. I mean, okay, somewhere out there, someone will get an enforcement action. And if that's you, it's going to suck. But like, I don't know. It speaks to the power of messaging, I guess. You know, you hear a message and you're like, I don't know. Anyway.
One thing we talked about last time, we sort of phrased it another way, which is 5-inch still the right size for freestyle, right? And one thing we talked about was there used to be a really big driver to put big action cams on 5-inch drones. Mm-hmm. Right, so part of the driver to move up to that size was to comfortably carry the action cam.
GoPro.
And yeah. So now you have smaller or no action cams. You know, you're using the DJI as the action cam. It's a lot easier to justify that 3.5-inch to carry. You know.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, assuming you're using DJI. But frankly, like the action cam is nice, but the meme where there's the bell curve, and at the bottom there's the one guy, the dumb guy, and then at the top there's the monk, and in the middle there, I don't know what the meme I'm talking about, and the bottom and the top are the same thing. That's the meme. And so it's like, a beginner, I don't need an action cam. Yes. A beginner, I don't need an action cam. Yes, there we go. The tryhard is in the middle. That's it. I don't need an action cam. I must have the best action cam. I don't need an action cam. Like in the beginning, you don't have a GoPro because you can't afford one and you don't want to break your GoPro. And then you get to a point where I must share my exploits with the world. Ha! I will upload to YouTube my amazing freestyle. Which is the best action cam? Is it the GoPro 11? The GoPro 12? I hear if you get a GoPro 8 and open it up and sprinkle fairy dust on it, you get better coverage, better footage. And then you just like reach a point where you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to fly. You know? What's the name for this meme? What's this? Is it the bell curve? Bell curve meme. Is that it? Bell curve meme. Bingo. I'm so good at the internet. I really, you guys are so lucky. Well, it's got to be the same thing. There we go. I got it. Should it be? Yeah, okay. God damn it. I don't know if this is the best way. Is that the best way to put it? I'm not quite sure that's the best way to express the concept I'm trying to express. I don't know. Yeah, anyway. They can't all be winners. Yeah, Blunty. Come on. Workshop
another
this
factor,
Blunty.
too. Well, I was
No,
just
you're
gonna say
not.
another
You're not
factor-
workshopping the meme. You're actually making useful content for our viewers.
Yeah, that was the intention.
Oh.
So the thought process is also that, like, you know, a lot of the stuff can follow creators. So I personally think part of the drive was that creators were using GoPros to do filming and show videos and produce drone videos and do all these things. And so, like, it's over accentuated in the reason people were picking drones, right? Like, most people don't need a GoPro, but how many new people do you go, how do I carry a GoPro? Especially years ago was like, how do I carry a GoPro? How do I put this on my drone? What can I carry? Like, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I always had the excuse that I was a content creator. No matter what kind of garbage flights I posted, a few thousand people would watch them. But, yeah. Beginners don't need GoPros, for sure. People who run DJI don't need GoPros, for sure. Probably never will. Unless you're like a cinematic, you're like literally doing paid work for a commercial or something, in which case GoPro does give, especially if you do color grading, better results than DJI. But the gap is closing for sure. For sure. Anyway. What stack is in the Nazgul DC5 ECO? Okay, let's file this under Bardwell Google's things for you. That's okay. I mean, I'd be happier if you had super chatted, but I'll look it up. Are we going to find out? This is actually a hard question to answer, and I'm going to look like a jerk for making fun of you. What stack is in the Nazgul DC5 ECO? I feel like that's the kind of thing that I will find on the product page. Flight controller, Blitz F7. So it's the Blitz F7 flight controller with the Blitz E55 4-in-1 ESC. There you go. That's what's in it. You're welcome. That one's not going to go on the Livestream Clips channel. I don't even think it matters. Will the new Ascent VRX work on Skyzone 020 goggles, or would the latency be really bad? Action Cam Mechanic, I've tested this when the Walksnail VRX came out, so not the same thing, but I did test the HDMI input. The latency on the Skyzone, I didn't test the 020s. I don't think. I can't speak to the 020s. I have no idea what the latency on the 020s is. Typically, on an HDMI input, you could assume that it's 1 frame of latency, unless it's been optimized to be less. 1 frame of latency is going to be about 16 milliseconds. The Ascent system has a latency, I think it was over 60 milliseconds. I don't remember what MadsTech tested it out at. It's pretty bad. So here's the thing. If the latency of the video system was 15 milliseconds and you added another 16 milliseconds, you would be doubling the latency, which maybe you could feel 30 milliseconds, maybe you can't. But if you were expecting 15 milliseconds and you got 30, you should be annoyed about that. If you were expecting even less, you see, the lower the latency, the more that 15 milliseconds matters. If the latency of the Ascent system is already 60, 70 milliseconds, hey, what's another 15, 16 milliseconds? It's not that bad. It's already terrible. What are you going to notice? So, I mean, there's an argument, right? There's an argument. I assume it'll work. The thing is, the latency on the Ascent system was already kind of so bad that I didn't like it. Blunty, you've been playing with the Protos. Have you been playing with you've been playing with putting Betaflight on the Protos and with the PID tune? Is that you? Am I remembering that you were doing that? Or am I conflating you with someone else?
Yeah, that's right.
And didn't we have a conversation where we conjectured that some of the latency that I felt was actually potentially in the control link, and they had all their defaults screwed up?
Yes, I fully believe that. For people who don't know, the Protos is based on PX4 firmware. So when it's a custom PX4, so when you're doing like acro on the Protos, you're doing acro through the PX4 software,
which is horrible.
So,
well, for acro, it's horrible.
Yes, for acro, it's terrible, and it flies like a stuck pig. And then also, like, the rates are very mushy. When I looked at the default rates they had set on the PX4, Maztec did a video how to change the rates on the PX4 if you want to, but there's also a version of Betaflight for it. I don't know if they've officially released it. They've given it to me to test, and I'm sure I can hand it out. I've definitely given it out to other people, and they were very open with handing it to me. But either way, you can't flash back. That's the big concern, right? You can't go back to PX4.
So things like
the features of the drone.
The position hold and the altitude hold you'll lose if you go to Betaflight.
Correct. And ostensibly, they're going to try to add what they can through the sensors they get access to back into Betaflight in the new versions of Betaflight, but that hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. But it flies so much better. And the fact that it flies better, to me, felt already like the latency was lower. That being said, it's still like Maztec tested glass to glass. He didn't test feel, right? But I think
What'd he get glass to glass? Do you remember the number?
I think initial was like 40 something, and then the 60 for full frame or something like that. But I'm not sure offhand.
That's not like awful, right? That's on par with some. That's in the ballpark of some DJIs. That's sniffing the. It's a little worse than some of the DJI systems, but not quite as good.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. But what else? The biggest issues are going to be for people are range and breakup.
Yeah.
You know, because those are completely different than you're going to expect out of a digital system that you get now.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. Like DJI is very good about giving you a little bit of smeary video that you can still see to fly through stuff. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Ascent just is not good at that bottom end. Like when you get down to a few megabits a second, it does not know what to do. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Like you get these long freezes and stuff. I've sent logs over to CADX to show them, but like I've had 500 milliseconds between frames.
Wow.
Just where it's like, yeah, like multiple frames with 500 milliseconds
bad.
Between each other. And to me, like I could still see megabits per second, and I thought you should be downgrading the video really bad and then shrinking out the sides. Like we know they have the tech to do that, mm-hmm. right? So give me the smallest frame possible at the lowest bitrate possible and still give me some kind of smooth video, you know?
Yeah. I thought I was impressed with the range I got for the output power that it had. But yeah, it fell apart at the end. I want to say I'm really pleased that Drone Geek starts the video with the exact same face he makes in the thumbnail. So that's, got to give the viewers what the thumbnail makes a promise the video has to deliver in the first 30 seconds. And it does. It promises that I will make this face. And sure enough,
this episode,
he does make that face in the very first frame of the video. So kudos. I'm as guilty as anybody. I've done the thumbnails with the YouTube BJ face. We gotta stop. We're better. It's 2026. We're better than this now, right, guys?
My new rule I don't know if you've ever noticed, some people might have noticed or not. For the clips channel, I used to pull one of like 20 faces of yours.
Okay.
And now my rule is I have to get it out of the video. So if you see a face on a live stream clip, that face was in the video. That's the rule.
Oh, that's nice. Do you choose BJ faces?
Yeah.
You do.
In the video.
Well, okay.
But they're in the.
Okay.
It's not like some video like I pulled it from something different. You made that face in the video.
Yeah. Okay. Well, best digital FPV beginner drone. Blunty is a sack of shit. See, you just put the question at the end. You can say whatever you want. Okay. What are we doing? What are we doing? Should I get the DJI V2 goggles? And I can't click on the right thing. Should I get the DJI V2 goggles in 2026? No, do not buy them. The V2 goggles, Caddx Vista and O3 are no longer... Is the Caddx Vista still manufactured, Blunty? What's your opinion about that?
I don't think it's still manufactured. As far as I know, it's not. But they're everywhere. But it could still be. But as far as I know, they're not.
You can still get them. I just could not, in good faith.
Are everywhere. You know, because there's also RunCam Link. So RunCam Links are also everywhere.
Well, like RunCam Link is... I mean, when I say Caddx Vista, I mean RunCam Link as well. I apologize. They are the same thing. They're identical. I guess some people might... Yes. I mean, the cameras are even interchangeable. So...
Yes. What I mean is, based on all these options, you can find them. I don't think they're still being made new. I could be mistaken. But I do know they're everywhere.
Would you... At what price point would you tell somebody to buy the V2 goggles today?
Well, I mean, if you told me $100, it would be like, you'd be like, no brainer, right? So then, how do you find a price?
So here's the thing.
You're going to start to get to close. N3s at $220, right?
Okay, so the N3 goggle, which works with the O4 Air unit, is at $220. Okay, the O4 Air unit has easily a year, probably 2 years in its service life before you even start thinking of... I mean, that's pure speculation, but I think that's a fair speculation. Before we start thinking about the O5. The thing is, you're going to buy the V2 goggles, and then you're going to start investing in air units. And those air units are not compatible with any other goggle. Well, I guess the G2 also works with the Vista, right? That's true. Theoretically, if your V2s die and you've got a fleet of Vistas and RunCam Links, you could buy a used G2 and still be okay. I just don't want to see somebody sort of paint themselves into a corner that they can't get out of. The situation I would be... So here's a situation I think about. You buy the V2 goggles, and then you can't get air units. Because, well, these days you buy the G3 and you can't get air units because you can't get O4s either. So, But you buy the V2 goggles, and then for whatever reason, because they're not manufactured anymore, you have a hard time getting Vistas, Links, or O3s. Okay, seems like that's not going to happen yet. So then you buy the V2s, you have a whole bunch of air units, and the V2s die, and now you can't get compatible goggles anymore. Yeah, you'd probably be able to get G2s, or, V2s are getting more and more scarce. But with the N3 at $220, and the N3 is, like, even form factor-wise, very similar to the V2, $100. Okay, that's... Sure, I'll go with that. If somebody offers you $200 for the V2, ask them, why wouldn't I just buy an N3 instead and go with the newest, best, and greatest? Ciati isn't wrong, though. Vistas, great link, cheap, durable as hell. You have a hard time killing a Vista. Every air unit since the Vista has gotten slightly less durable, especially in the camera. Vista cameras were bomb. Like, you could break a lens, just unscrew the lens, put a new lens on, replace the camera, piece of cake. Not like the O3, which has the integrated lens. You break it, it's $100 for a new one. G3 cannot use a Vista camera or bind to a Vista. That's hardware or software, a little bit of both. But the DJI did not make it possible to do that, and that's the bottom line. So $100 for the V2 is what I would say is a fair price these days. And then you're going to try to get air units for it. RunCam Link would be the place to go. And there's lots and lots of cameras available. Different cameras, low light cameras, etc., etc. Should motor wires be twisted? I don't think it matters. Amplified car audio. Does it sometimes make sense and other times not so much? I'm not convinced it matters. Like the idea, but what's the idea behind twisting them? You're going to reduce electromagnetic interference. Are you really? Like, I don't know. I'd have to see some proof of that. I don't think it matters. I don't twist them. It's just my opinion. I don't have any scientific data. You say braiding makes them look nice. I think it just makes it... If you braid them, and then you chop a wire, and you have to splice the wire, you're going to be so sad. I wouldn't. I don't think I would. For tiny whoop, though, I like this comment. For tiny whoop wires, it gives a tiny bit of tension on the wires to keep the wires away from the props. I like that. I like that a lot. It's a matter of if you want a clean build. I take offense to that. I run them flat on the arm, perfectly straight and parallel, and tape them down neatly. Now, don't tell me that's cleaner. Don't tell me that's less clean than if you, like, twist them and braid them. Boom. 3 parallel lines. It doesn't get cleaner than that. Doesn't get cleaner than that. Are there any good ways to flash a BLHeli ESC without connecting it to a flight controller? Sure enough. Sure enough. Let's see if I remember. Let's see. No. I've done this a long time ago. There we go. How to make Arduino ISP. That's what I'm looking for. You can build a BLHeli programmer for Arduino. And you can connect directly to the ESC. And then once you've got that, and I, a long time ago, have a tutorial somewhere about, yeah, the 4-wire interface. 4-wire interfaces, yada, yada, yada. Oof, it's been forever since I've done this, but it can be done. BLHeli programming adapters.pdf. There you go. This is what we're looking for. Arduino 4-way interface. Yes. This is what you want, is the BLHeli programming adapters.pdf. And 4-wire interface or 4-way no, you don't care about the protocol. You care about the interfaces? That's just how to solder up. How to make an Arduino ISP. Anyway, hopefully you can find what you need and all that, because it's a giant pain in the butt, and I don't recommend it, but if you want to do it, that's how you do it.
I linked in the live stream chat. There's also a device you can just buy.
What? Where's the fun in that? You just buy this? Well, that says AM32 BLHeli 32. Does it work with BLHeli S?
Yes, it says any BLHeli. So.
Oh, damn. I thought I had you. Yeah, I would just buy this.
I mean, I can't imagine pass-through is different, right?
No, it's
just not on.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Yeah, buy that. Don't. Yes, $4. You can't get an Arduino for $4. Buy this. 100% recommend. I have all of my quads on ELRS 500 Hz packet rate, asks Chris Berg. I've been thinking of going to 250 Hz for more range. Mainly close freestyle, couple hundred meters with a house in between me and the quad. Is it as easy as just applying the 250 Hz preset and changing the Lua script? Nope, that's it. That's all you got to do. Change the packet rate in the Lua script and then load the 250 Hz preset in Betaflight. That's all. I'm going to pass on this pessimistic question from Lysol 1911. No offense, Lysol, but I'm not going to... Well, let's not be pessimistic. Let's be optimistic. Well, until I get annoyed about something, then I'll be pessimistic. I'm going to pass that question, though. Race FPV. Got another question. That's 2 for you, Race FPV. You're using up your quota. My second question is, are directional patch antennas really just 2 basic PCBs, one stacked on top of the other? Why couldn't I just fab up the boards myself instead of paying like $40 on Amazon? Well, yeah, you could. The thing is, designing antennas... So for example, at their heart, all antennas are just a piece of metal, right? They're just a conductive material, usually metal, through which an electrical current flows, an alternating current flows, and whenever alternating current flows inside of a conductor, you get a radiated electromagnetic field, and that is an antenna. Well, what's the difference between just a random old wire and an antenna? And the difference is, well, like most simply put, the length of the wire. Because of reasons related to complex things that happen with AC current, AC electricity, inductance, capacitance, so on. The length of the wire affects the wavelength that the antenna is tuned to. And then it gets more complicated from there. Like, that's fairly easy to understand, but it gets more complicated from there as you start building more and more complex antennas. When you have multiple radiators, the signal that they radiate reinforces and cancels out each other, and it creates directionality in the antenna pattern. So you got something like a Yagi antenna. Yagi antenna with multiple radiators. And basically, oh, I just wanted to see the graphic. I don't want to see your whole video. Sorry, I don't have time for that. So multiple radiators here. We've got this driven element, and then these directors, which they essentially receive and then retransmit the signal. And see, it gets complicated fast, doesn't it? So when you're talking about, I'm going to design my own patch antenna. Well, like if you were to buy a patch antenna and very carefully measure the dimensions of the patch antenna, you might get something similar. But there's a lot of ins and outs. Microwave signals, 5.8 gigahertz. Like if you're doing something on lower frequencies, it can be a little simpler. Microwave frequencies are real sensitive. So for example, the impedance of the PCB matters. The thickness of the PCB. The dielectric material of the PCB. It all matters. It all affects the results of the antenna. And these are all things that can be accounted for. But if you were to just grab an antenna, measure the size of the radiating elements, buy yourself mock up a PCB, an Eagle or whatever, and send it off and buy it, would you get a good antenna? Maybe, maybe not. There's a lot of factors there. The length of the traces matters. Yes, you could just do it yourself. But there's a lot of knowledge and engineering that goes into getting good results. Yeah, see, like, look at this page I just stumbled across, right? And yet, look at all the bullshit on this page. Oh. Start with the operating frequency and the dielectric constant for this PCB substrate material. Well, okay, I know my operating frequency is 5.8 gigahertz. What's my dielectric constant for the PCB substrate material? Calculate the required bridge of the patch antenna using this formula. Oh. Yes, so, obviously. Yeah, Blunty.
You know, he's talking about copying an existing one, but I think something like talking about like the dielectric constant, right, is part of the issue, right? You need to make sure you have the exact same substrate material. You need to make sure you have the exact thickness of the traces, the exact layer count, right? Like,
yes.
I feel like it would be difficult to just clone based off measuring without 100%. Testing with without something that you can hook up after testing to do SWR measurements on and make sure you're in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
But you may just be happy with making something close and testing it to a real antenna and just seeing if the performance is good enough for you. You know, it really depends on what you're going for. It's also possible you could find open source schematics online for a patch antenna instead that you could
no, that would
already
be smart.
that are already
That would
in
be
CAD
smart.
or something, right? Something else to consider.
My point, and yeah. So to sum up, my point is, like, look at this. What kind of feed method are you going to use? Oh, I don't know. There's all kinds of ins and outs. Patch antennas are complicated, way more complicated than you think, probably. So if you want to design your own antenna, it's far better to build a dipole. You could build a hell of a good dipole with a freaking wire cutter and a swarm meter. You could build a hell of a good helical antenna. Any antenna that involves cutting wire and bending wire, you get a pretty good one just building it by hand. And you can just kind of play with it. But a PCB antenna, you're going to send it off to fab. They're going to send it back to you. And if you screwed it up, well, that one's in the trash. And now it's just another round through the fab to make another one. That's not really something that, like, your typical home hobbyist is just going to be like, I think I'll try this today. Go ahead, Monty.
And I'll say it may be the case that, like, you could design something that has like 40 slots for resistors or something, like, and then you can add in the amount you need, like, you know what I mean, like, because it's a custom build, like you're doing something custom, so maybe there's also like a way to do that. But I think the problem is, like, it's very easy to get to $40.
Oh yeah, easy.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and there's also a lot cheaper patches than 40. It depends on what quality you're looking for and what you're expecting to get out of what you make, right?
For sure. Yeah, you look at that $40 patch antenna and you say, well, those PCBs only cost $5. They're like, okay, the knowledge and experience. How, as you said, Blunty, if you tried to do it yourself, you would waste far more than $40 getting garbage PCBs that don't work the way you thought they should before you got one that vaguely looked like the way it worked the way you thought it should. And if you went to then try to sell it after having wasted hundreds and thousands of dollars learning how to do it, and someone said, well, that's just a $5 PCB, you would be like, I'm not in the black yet, friend. So, there we go. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. Tyler Wright has lost over $3,000 in drones within the last 6 months. Tyler Wright, can I be your friend? You have way too much money. Kudos to you on being in a position in life to waste $3,000 in lost drones in 6 months. You know, I say that with all sincerity. Just to put a little, just to kind of put a little perspective on it, though. You're doing pretty good for yourself if you can afford to lose $3,000 in drones. So, I've lost $3,000 in drones, and now my wife kicked me out of the house, and I'm homeless because that was our mortgage money. Oh, I'm sorry. I take it back. No, that's not what this question says. I'm just being silly. All because of faulty hardware. 3 drones, 2 different motors failed on rated power, and 3 due to battery indicators on 2 goggles. Tyler Wright, my friend, with all due respect, sir, there's a common link here. Chat, what's the common link here? You are the common link, Tyler. And Tyler, I at this point, I think you're going to get your back up a little bit because you came here to complain about bad hardware and you wanted me to sympathize with you and go, yeah, hardware sucks. Then I made fun of your income a little bit. And now I'm telling you that you lost those drones not because of bad hardware. But here's the thing. You didn't get like 3 bad motors in a row that took your drone out of the air. Unless you just, like, even if you bought the shittiest $8 cheap China crap motors. Like, I'm thinking of the DYS Samguk motors. None of you guys don't remember those, most of you, probably. I'm the grandpa of FPV now. Everything I say, I'm like, you guys don't remember. They were $8. Some of them were even, like, a little cheaper than that sometimes. And, like, if you bought 6 of them, 2 of them would have, like, so much shake in the bearings you didn't want to use them. So you would buy 6, and, like, you might get 5 or 4 that were usable. Some people just put them all out there and, like, just sent it. Like, but your ratio of bad hardware, and then you say, I lost 3 due to battery indicators on 2 goggles. That's user error. I don't know what was wrong with your battery indicator on the goggle, but I freaking guarantee you, like, I used to use the SpeedyBee goggle Beck, and the V1 SpeedyBee goggle Beck would blink the screen when the battery was dying and no other indicator. And because the goggle Beck was outputting 9 volts, in the goggle you just saw 9 volts up until the battery died. I killed a battery that way. And I went, well, that's stupid. And then I killed another battery that way, and I went, damn it, Bardwell. And then I figured out a way to not do that again. Whether that's don't use the SpeedyBee goggle Beck anymore, or what I did is I bought a little audible alert that when the battery is low that plugs into the balance plug. But like, your goggle indicators are doing what they're going to do. You just didn't know how they work, I think. You lost 3 drones due to a battery indicator on 2 goggles. The first time I lose a drone because the battery indicator doesn't tell me the goggle's about to die, well, you know. And there's the other thing. Last thing. You lost 6 drones in 6 months. How did you lose them? Where were you flying that you couldn't get them back? I can probably count on one hand the number of RC aircraft I've lost that I didn't recover, that I was unable to recover, either because it was out of reach or because I simply couldn't find it. It's not 0, but it's not very many. So, like, what I hear you saying is, I've crashed 5 Mustangs in the last 6 months. Traction control on the Mustang is terrible. Or, you know, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is more, you're just buying things and you're sending it and you're not really doing the necessary work to educate yourself. Faulty hardware. 3 drones, 2 different motors failed on rated power. Yeah, was your like, how was your soldering? What did the motor fail after a crash and you just picked it up, didn't notice the signs that the motor was broken, sent it, and then it burned out? Like, there's a million questions we could ask, and they all boil down to, there's no way that you lost 6 drones in 6 months and it's not somehow your fault. That's what it boils down to. And I don't think you want to hear that. But you need to hear that because you will keep doing this and you will keep wasting your money. And if you're like, I don't understand how this is my fault. Like, okay, yeah, because if you did, then you wouldn't be doing this anymore. You gotta take a humble attitude, find a mentor, and learn how to do it right. And if you're like, I don't understand how this is my fault. This is not my fault. Then you will just keep losing drones. So, there you go. All right. Rambong says, how much should I charge for 5 minutes of FPV footage? That's an impossible question to answer. It's an impossible question to answer. There's not enough information there to answer it. There's way too... Let's generalize that question. How would you price a request for FPV footage? By the way, I realize... oh my god. We haven't done any super chats, and we're like almost an hour into the stream. I have been on a roll. I will get to super chats next. Apologize, super chats. I've been on a roll. So, like, 5 minutes of FPV footage. First of all, who wants it, and what are they going to do with it? Tom Cruise? Like, I'll tell you a story. This does not involve Tom Cruise. He was just the first celebrity I could think of. Should I name them? Yeah, I can name him. So, this little thing that Rotorite did with Kai Cenat, I got pitched this. I don't know whether they went to Rotorite first or me first. I'm not going to say, I don't know who went first. They obviously did it. I didn't. Hold on. The beauty is that because I didn't do it, I'm not under an NDA. Ha! I can say whatever I want. But I'm going to be selective about what I say and share, just out of respect for his team. They went to me and they said, hey, we have a stream coming up. Kai Cenat's going to do a 24-hour live stream. We think it'd be really cool if we had some drone content in there. This guy reached out. He said, I'm a fan. I'm a drone pilot. I love your content. He seemed sincere. He seemed like he actually was an FPV guy and not just like saying that to blow smoke. And he was like, I would love to have you on. I think it would be great. He said, it's going to be 2 days. We would pay your travel. And I said, well, I'll show you what I said. I said, I can't do this. I can't fit it on screen. Can I move it? Here we go. Hang on. Let's see if I can fit it on screen. I said the bottom line, they didn't offer any money for the day for me to come. They were just like, you come, you show up, you do it, we'll pay your travel. I said the bottom line for me is I'm a working professional with a full schedule and a family. I don't work for exposure. Every time in the past I've collaborated with a big creator outside the FPV niche, it's gotten me a temporary bump in views, but very little actual long-term benefit. FPV is a super technical field. It's expensive as hell. It's not accessible to most people. On top of that, and this was the big one, I have a general idea of how much money Kai Cenat pulls in and what the budget for this project must be. They rented like a whole mansion for they rented a mansion. They I know how much Kai pulls in. I know how much money he's going to make off of this. I know y'all could afford the day rate for a top quality pilot if you wanted to. And I understand why you're asking people to do it for free, because most people, the value of the exposure is more than worth it. That's not the case for me or any of the pilots. They asked me to recommend other pilots. That's not the case for me or any of the pilots I'd send your way. And then because this was being filmed in LA, and I know Tommy Tabahia is based in LA, I said, if you want to hire a pro to make your segment a success, I put it out to Tommy Tabahia. He lives in LA. He'd set his own day rate, but I think it's around $2,500 a day. I just made that number up because I want Tommy to make money. I don't know what Tommy's day rate is, but I thought that was a fair. I was like, yeah, there you go. That's how much you want. You want the best, you get the best. You pay for it. You want a professional, you get a professional. So when you ask me how much for 5 minutes of FPV footage, some of that is how hard is it going to be for me to get the footage for you? We haven't even touched on that. But some of it is who are you and how much are you going to, what are you going to use the footage for? You know? 13-year-old Timmy says, Mr. Bardwell, can I use your FPV footage for my YouTube channel for my high school project? Timmy doesn't have to pay me a dime, right? Kai Cenat wants me to come out, wants to use my footage. Kai Cenat can pay me because I know he's going to get paid. So that's part of what goes into it for me. The other side of it is, how much did you have to spend in terms of money and time and risk to get that footage? Footage of me flying around in my backyard that I already have, that I wasn't going to do anything with anyway. You want that? I don't know. I'd probably charge a nominal amount just to not set a precedent of just like I'm not worth anything, but I wouldn't charge very much. Footage that I have to risk, take my time and risk my equipment. Like I could crash or I could get into a car accident on the way to the shoot, or I'm at the shoot and I could fall off a ladder or fall off, I don't know what, right? Now that number starts going up. And there's no way to just answer the question, how much is 5 minutes of FPV footage worth? But those are some of the things that factor into it. Before we go to the Super Chats, Blunty, Anything, you know you've been watching the comments. Any comments about that, or any thoughts or questions before we close that topic out? That's an interesting topic. Could go a lot of different directions.
Not in particular, I would say.
Okay. Oh.
A lot of people confused about who Kaisenet is.
Well, that's the other reason I didn't.
Why people are confused, and yeah.
Kaisenet is wildly popular. He is wildly popular. But he is wildly popular because I would do it for exposure if I thought there was value in the exposure. Like, I'm not above working for exposure. There has to be value for the exposure. He is wildly popular, but if you watch any of his content and you ask yourself, is his average viewer going to sit and watch Joshua Bardwell drone? Let's talk about drones, guys. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You gotta learn that today. And there aren't going to be any smash cuts or sound effects. His average viewer, I wonder what the average age and income of his average viewer is. I might not be able to afford to get into FPV. So, like, and that doesn't mean they're bad people. That doesn't mean I don't want them watching my content. But when they ask me the question of, am I going to take 2 to 3 days of my time to go and work for you for free? Is there expected value coming back the other way from me? And 1 million of my viewers will see you. Yeah, they'll see me and they'll never think of me again. So, no, there's no value there. Kai is 100% cooler than me. Absolutely. That's why his audience doesn't want to watch my content, and there's no value in me going on his channel and getting exposure. Anyway, let's do Super Chats. If I had a product to sell, then I could get exposure for the product.
Yeah, create a pump and dump crypto coin, advertise it on the stream, and then... Yeah.
I guarantee you what would happen would be that I would see a small bump in views. I would see a small bump in subscribers. It would slowly trickle out. It would not equate to anything near reasonable compensation for, say, a day of travel and a full day of work. Like a long day of work, probably. Now, Rotor Riot did it, and I believe it was worth it for them. I don't know if they got paid or not. I assume that they got the same offer I did, which was no pay. But Rotor Riot has a store and a brand and a product to sell. And if they get their logo and their website on that video, people will go and they will spend money there. And that probably was worth it for them. But just the nature of who I am and what I do, there's not a lot of value in exposure because I have nothing to sell except myself. It was a perfect chance to promote the JB build kit. Was missed. Disagree. Hard disagree, Race FPV. Again, who is the average Kaisenet viewer? And who is the average FPV pilot? The average FPV pilot is a 30 to 50-year-old man with a lot of disposable income. I know there are outliers, but that's who the average is. The average Kaisenet viewer, if I look at his content, I'm guessing it's a 13 to 25-year-old man with much less attention span and disposable income, I think. Go ahead, Blunty. You had something to say.
Yeah, the thing you're going to get sales out of there is something that kids or young adults watching the stream instantly can buy and want, right?
You got it.
And that thing is like a tiny whoop kit with goggles and a flight and a cheap radio that you watch your favorite streamer flying around and go, "This is crazy! This is crazy!" You know.
And I went to Tommy. And I told Tommy that I was gonna. I checked with him before I pitched his name. I told Tommy that I was gonna I had this opportunity. I was like, "Do you want it?" And he's like, "Nah." He was like, "If you come out, I'll hang out with you." I was like, "Well, thank you. That's kind of you." And I said, Tommy, we had I don't remember what the lead time was, but it was maybe a month, 6 weeks of lead time. I said, "Can you put together some kind of, oh my God, kit that we could use on the show and promote and just sell to Kaisenet's view?" It was like, "Nah, not in that time frame. Sorry." So, anyway. Super Chats. I said Super Chats. Love the drone reviews. On the LionBee, it should fit a 14mm camera like the Ant. Yes, it should. That's the size of the camera. Yes, that's correct. Camera is working, but OSD isn't on my Fatshark Recon HD goggles. Thank you for $5 from FireKid. Walk Snell Avatar HD2 VTX. Tried everything on Betaflight. Wiring, firmware updating. So Fire Kid, first of all, thank you for the donation. This is not the kind of problem we can really solve on a live stream because it involves like digging in. Show me a picture of your wiring. Show me your Betaflight config. Trying to, like, you think you've done everything right, but either you haven't done everything right or something's broken and we got to poke at it until we figure out what that is. The problem is that we can't really do that on a live stream. The best place to take a question like this is either a Discord message or an email, and we'll go back and forth. Or if you want somebody to just sit down with you and like one-on-one fix it, Blunty does one-on-one calls for $50 an hour. You can message him on Discord at It's Blunty, ITSBLUNTY. Or you could email me. There's no charge for that. It's only if you want Blunty to get on the phone with you and try and fix it. Yeah, we can't really solve this. Like, we would just have to go through and check all the things. One of the mistakes people make is that they manually set up the ports tab instead of loading the Betaflight preset. You want to load the Betaflight OSD preset, not just the ports tab, because there are some CLI settings that need to happen, and most people overlook those. So that's a thing I would say. Yeah, that's what I would say. So you want to, here, I'll even show you the preset just so we make sure we're on the same page here. You're going to go to the presets tab, and warning, a third-party preset source is selected. That's the made-up preset source. Delete. Okay. What you're going to do is, I like to just type WTFOS. And when you type that, nothing will happen. Nothing will come up. WTFOS. And the reason is because none of the presets have been updated for Betaflight 2025.12 yet. And the default search is for 2025.12. So whenever you search for a preset, you just don't find any presets. I shouldn't say none. I guess that's not true because like some of them have apparently been marked as 2025.12. But a lot of them haven't. So I shouldn't say none. That's not true. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm just going to select 4.5 as well. And boom, what we're going to find is this. So you want to load this preset, OSD for WWDIU3 Avatar HD. Okay? You're going to select that preset, and then in the options, you're going to select your UART number, and that's it. That's all you got to do. Boom. Pick. Agree. Save and reboot. Try that. If you set it up manually, try that. Continuing the super chats, or email me, DM me or Blunty on Discord, and or give Blunty $50. He'll get on the phone with you, and he'll probably have you sorted out in 20 minutes. I just got a Mobula 6 ELRS, worth upgrading from PH2.0, N27 BT 2.0. Jacob Newbert, thank you for $5. Yes, 1,000% worth upgrading. The PH 2.0 is terrible. I mean, we used it for a long time, but it's terrible. BT 2.0 or N27, I think the question is what kind of batteries do you want to buy? The advantage of the N27 is it is backwards compatible with PH 2.0 and gives better performance even when used with a PH 2.0 on the battery. Blunty, did I get that right? Because I've gotten that wrong in the past.
Sorry, I was queuing questions.
Okay. The N27 from Newbie Drone is backwards compatible with PH 2.0 and gives better performance even when used with a PH 2.0 on the battery. Because it has less resistance. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're making one side better, basically.
So if you have a bunch of PH2 batteries, get the N27, keep using those batteries, and then slowly transition to N27 batteries for even better performance. But there are relatively few N27 batteries available. And the absolute best performance is when you have a great battery with a great connector on the battery and a great connector on the drone. So unless you're going to commit, well, like, is it just Newbie Drone that makes N27 batteries now? Are there any others?
Sorry, it's NX69 is the Newbie Drone standard.
NX69. Well, what's N27?
Not sure.
Did he just misspell NX69? Did we both do that? I think he means NX69, and he. Oh, GNB27. GNB27.
Good call.
Oh. Ooh. Okay. So everything I just said is about the NX69 connector from Newbie Drone. Scratch that. NX69 from Newbie Drone. And I think the problem is that NX69 is currently, excuse me, I think it's basically, if not literally, only available from Newbie Drone. I don't know if anybody else is making an NX69 battery. Like, I'm looking at this page from Osterger Leong to see if there's another brand. Oscar says the PH2.0 battery will not work with an NX69 whoop or charger. That's not... I thought they were backwards compatible, but he's saying they're not. That's interesting.
Says the holes are too small, which I don't...
I wonder if that's
never
just
heard that.
like a one-off thing for him. I'd say I'm surprised to hear that. Newbie Drone NX69. The holes are too small.
The Audi says it does not work the other way around. That's crazy.
There you go.
A lot of people have questions about the NX69, and today, H2. Well, that's actually when the drone turns on. As you can see, it works, no smoke. Also, many people think that you need a specific NX69 charger. Well, that's also false. Many chargers out there in the market today have PH2 connectors. So all you have to do is right here, boom, plug it in. And
Well, this guy says it works. Shit, I clicked the wrong button. Sorry.
you're good to go. You can charge your NX69 battery with a PH2
Oh, but it's the other way. It's PH2.
connector. Last but not least, we have also read that some of you were struggling to unplug the battery.
No, it's PH2 battery into an N69 connector on the drone. That's what doesn't work. Okay, so you're saying, okay, wow, okay, I'm learning something today. We'll have to, but I don't know if you want to edit this when you do the live stream clip to take out the bad information or like put some text on screen. Bardwell is wrong here. I don't know. I don't want to give out bad information. If you have a bunch of PH2 batteries and you switch to an NX69 on the drone, you cannot use those batteries. So all you would be doing would be locking yourself into buying Newbie Drone batteries forever. And that would be silly. So don't use, that's a big strike against it. Like, that was like the advantage of NX69 was that it was PH2.0 plug and play compatibility. But that doesn't, I'm slowly getting angry. Because when I see PH2.0 plug and play compatibility, and by the way, we'll get back to your question. I assume that means that I can use my PH2.0 batteries with your new connector. I don't assume that I can use your new battery on all my old PH2.0 drones. That's not what plug and play means. Connects directly without hardware changes. Well, that implies that it goes both directions. That feels really misleading, to the point where I'm simmering with anger and wondering whether I'm about to like misinterpret something and get angry over something that like isn't actually what I think it is. But if what I think is happening is really happening, which is that it's not plug and play compatible. It's only one way compatible and not the other way, and it's the stupid way. Like, if it's going to be one-way compatible, I should be able to use my old batteries with this new connector on my drone, because I have a million old batteries. Well, that's really... some of my anger is just feeling defensive about the fact that I thought I understood something. I put out information. It was wrong. And now I feel dumb. And I feel like I didn't do people right. But some of it is like, is it just me? Is that stupid? Or am I stupid? Tell me in the chat. Is that stupid or am I stupid?
I mean, it's not like Newbie Drone's ever done something like this before.
I knew. I was waiting. I was waiting for you to jump in. I knew. Yeah. No, that's just, there's nothing wrong with the way they did it. It's just misleading to say it's plug and play compatible when it's only compatible one way and not the other. And the way that I would assume it would be compatible is the way it's not compatible. So just buy BT2. Why would you ever buy the NX69? Sorry, Newbie Drone. Why would you ever buy this? It's not backwards compatible in a meaningful way. So I'm basically just shifting myself over to a new battery connector. Obviously, if I buy NX69 batteries, I'm going to swap the connector on all my drones. Oh, my friend gave me a drone and has a PH2.0 and I want to use it with my NX69 batteries. Fine. Okay, good. I just threw out all my PH2.0 batteries the minute I switched. Well, if I'm going to throw out all my old batteries anyway, why wouldn't I go to BT 2.0 and have a much wider selection of batteries to pick from instead of just committing myself to your connector standard? Okay. Anyway, I feel like we've hit that point. Let me just double check the GNB battery connector. Not the A30, though. The GNB 27. I'm not familiar with this. This is not...
I think A30 is the replacement, right?
What's
like people
the
are using
GNB 27?
A30s.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Is
anybody still using this connector? Where is this even from? The A30 is the... I think A30 would be the one to go to. I don't know where the GNB 27 is. So BT 2.0 is the one with the most support. In most batteries, most support. It is a beta FPV standard, though. So it's a little more expensive because every battery that has it has to pay them a little bit of a licensing fee.
Okay,
I would...
we have to say...
Yeah.
Sorry. This is almost funny. Hey, I'm just look at the live stream chat and click on the picture that Dan Navarro posted, and let's show that on the screen. Newbie Drone has an NX69 battery trade-in application. You can trade in your old 1S batteries and get new batteries, NX69 batteries, for $10 per set of 4.
$250 a battery? That's a good price. Is that a good price? I feel like that's it. I mean, the really good folded cell batteries are like $6, $7. Let's keep it in the Newbie Drone stable. The Newbie Drone... No, I misspelled it. Newbie Drone Nitro Nectar. No.
You can get 40 of them. If you have 40, then surely there's profit. But I wonder what the shipping costs on like 4.
So $17 for a 4-pack of the Nitro Nectar. Those are the NX69s. Okay, fine. That's fine. 17
so you're
divided by
saving
4.
$7.
17 divided by 4 is $4.25. Yeah, you're saving $7. That's like...
But you're paying... Yeah, so you need to send in like 8 or 12 to get enough to not pay shipping difference, right?
I mean, I got a lot of PH 2.0 batteries.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know this existed, so...
I mean, that's a better deal. I'm going to take all my... Because they don't care if they're old, shitty, ragged out, puffed up. They don't say anything about that. You just take a bunch of and they know this. I'm not like letting any secrets out. Just take a bunch of old, useless PH 2.0 batteries, send them off. They're probably doing these. So my guess is that they're doing this at slightly more than cost. If I were like a business person, and I'm a terrible business person, if let's say these batteries cost me $2, you know, from the manufacturer, and I sell them for $5 or $6, which is okay. So I'm going to do a special. I'm going to sell them for $3. That way I make a tiny bit of money to cover the labor and the shipping and handling, whatever. There's always a little bit of cost with any kind of customer interaction. So I put a tiny, tiny profit margin in there just to make sure I'm not losing money. And now I'm building the customer base. That's my guess is that about $250 a battery is their cost. Maybe a little less than that because if they're smart, they're not taking a loss. As a business owner, I think you never want to have an open-ended negative. Because what if I just get thousands and thousands of batteries? If I lose 50 cents on each one, suddenly I'm bankrupt. So I always want the number to be slightly in the positive. That's the way that I think about it. So my guess is that $10 per set is about cost, a little more than cost, and that's a good deal. That's a good move by them. They're sending any old PH2.0 battery. Good for them. It doesn't even say it has to be PH2.0. It just says 1S. It could be a BT 2.0. It could be anything. Just use this to buy new batteries.
Two other things. One is a 40 pack is $120, which is $3 a battery, and this is $250 a battery if you do trade-ins. So once you get up to that many, then it's not as good of a deal.
Volume.
The other thing people in chat are saying is McShaky says Nick says you send in a picture to them.
Because they don't want your stupid batteries.
They probably don't want your batteries, but I don't know if they're going to trust you have. I don't know how that would work out, but just so you know, you might not have to ship them. So if you didn't have to ship them, that's a better deal.
You send them a picture. Do they make you destroy them? How would they even do that?
All right, your mileage may vary, but at least there's some option for people who feel left out.
Yeah, all right. Good deal. All right. Well, those are good batteries. The folded cell batteries are good batteries. The NewBee night protectors are great batteries. They're the same cells, I believe. I don't know this for a fact, but they seem like they're the same cells used over the other folded cells manufacturers. So but they are the good ones. All right. So to close out this question, yes, it's worth upgrading from PH 2.0. No, don't use an N27. Use an A30 if you want to go that direction. Better probably just to go BT 2.0. And the NX69 is a good connector, but you basically are locking yourself into using NewBee batteries unless it suddenly gains traction, which I doubt it will. Because A30 is an open standard, it hasn't really picked up. Everybody just uses BT 2.0. That's how standards work. People just pick something. All right. Help with the DJI antenna. See chat for questions. Okay. Thank you for a $2 super chat. eCast 23 Off-Road. What's the best antenna money can buy for the 04 Pro and the 04 Lite? And why left-hand polarized and not? I will tell you, the only thing that's changed recently is, since I got the fiber internet, here we're reconnected. The only thing that's changed recently, Blunty, is since I got the fiber internet, I switched my cameras over to 4K because we're shooting in Fabio and I are shooting in 4K now that I have the bandwidth to upload 4K footage. And I have to wonder if... No, because the Sony is still outputting 1080 to the capture card.
Are you sure it was after the fiber? I feel like maybe the first one was before the fiber, but I might be wrong.
I think it just started happening on the last stream or the stream before.
Okay. You're probably right.
I'm pretty sure it's still 1080 to the camera. I'm pretty sure the Sony doesn't output 4K. I don't know how I would know that. How do I know what resolution is coming in from the camera? I don't know. I probably shouldn't mess with this right now. Anyway. Resolution / FPS. I'm not going to mess with this right now, but that's the only thing that's changed recently. I don't know. That's pretty weird. That it just OBS just what's happening is OBS is locking up because I don't see the preview moving either over on OBS. That's weird. Oh, well. It didn't happen on the last live stream, I don't think. Alrighty. Let's just keep going. Let me read the question again. What is the best antenna money can buy for the O4 Pro and the O4 Lite? And why left-hand and right-hand polarized if the G3 are linear? Honestly, for the video transmitter, I don't think I would upgrade the antenna much at all. The factory antenna for the O4 Pro is pretty solid. You know? For the O4 Lite, it comes with a dipole antenna, a little whip antenna. It can be beneficial to upgrade that to a circular polarized antenna, I suppose. But like, best money can buy. Like, it's not like that. Like, for the O4 Lite, I might consider something like a Lumineer Axi, which will get you a circular polarized antenna instead of linear, which can have some benefits in some situations. It's going to be a little bit better antenna than like just the piece of wire from DJI. But honestly, the drone antennas are there. First of all, DJI makes okay antennas. You're not going to significantly improve coverage. The way that you would typically get better coverage would be you would go with a directional antenna, but you never want to put a directional antenna on a drone because the drone changes orientation, right? So you don't want to do that. So honestly, my recommendation is just use what it came with. If you have the O4 Lite and you want to upgrade, maybe consider something like a Lumineer Axi or a Micro Axi. But your question about left and right hand polarized, that's a more interesting question. So the DJI goggles have linear polarized antennas. And generally you want the polarization of the antennas to match. So if you have linear on your goggle, you want linear on your drone. The problem with linear polarization is that if the two antennas are out of polarization by 90 degrees, you get a massive amount of loss. Like 15 dB or more of loss. Okay? Pause that. What would keep people from sending in fake pics? They don't care. They just want you to use their batteries. That's all. They will just sell you batteries for $10. The $17 price is just for people who are dumb or honest enough to not send in fake pics. If you send them a fake pic of 40 batteries and say, I want 40 of your batteries at $2.50 a piece, they'll be like, oh no, you got us. Here. They're still making a small amount of money and they know they need to reach a critical mass in order to get people to use their batteries. So, oh, you got me. Now you have 40 of my batteries. What will I do? Oh, no, you're not gaming the system. They're tricking you. I don't mean that they're like being unscrupulous, but they're like, yeah, these batteries are $17 for 4. But wink, wink, if you just jump through a trivial hoop, we'll give them to you for $10. Oh no, what will we do if people find out about this? Don't throw me in that briar patch. Okay. They don't care. I mean, if they do care, then they'll call you on it. But, like, you're doing them a favor. Okay, back to the antenna question. When linear antennas are 90 degrees out of polarization, you get massive amount of loss. So, you generally do not want to use linear antennas. Linear antennas are used lots of places, but if you think about it, linear antenna on a car, the antenna is upright. The car is mostly upright. Linear antenna on a handheld radio. How you use it? Generally, it's upright, right? Generally, when you have linear antennas, they are in a fixed orientation. But an FPV drone is not like that. An FPV drone, the antenna can be in lots of different orientations. So, what we do, and this is not the main reason we do it, we use circular polarized antennas. Now, one advantage of circular polarized antennas is that the polarization is not affected by the orientation of the antenna. as you rotate the antenna, the polarization is just still it's rotated the same. And so circular polarized antennas get the exact same coverage regardless of their orientation to each other. Now, that's regarding to polarization. You still have a coverage pattern where the signal is weaker at the top of the antenna, but that's not caused by the polarization, that's caused by the emission pattern. So set that aside. Linear antennas also have an emission pattern. It's the same for both of them. The other reason we use circular polarized antennas is that when they help cancel out multipath reflections. Enough said about that. I don't want to go down that tangent. So why then does the DJI goggle have linear antennas on the goggle and a circular antenna on the drone? So it turns out that in that situation, you get a very small amount of loss, about 3 dB, which is not nothing. But it's way less loss than if you had 2 linear antennas and they were cross-polarized. So by putting a circular antenna on the drone, or you could have, like if you think about Whoop class drones, they'll typically have a linear antenna on the drone and a circular on the goggles. That works too. Now the signal is not the polarization. You don't get polarization loss as the antennas go out of orientation. You just have a very small amount of polarization loss regardless of the antenna's orientation. So the question is not why did DJI put a circular antenna on the drone? It always makes sense to have a circular polarized antenna on the drone because the drone's orientation can change. If the drone was like an airplane that basically was always flying flat and level and didn't spend a lot of time flippity flopping, then you could put a linear antenna on the aircraft and it would make sense. So you always put a circular antenna on the drone. But why did DJI put a circular antenna on the goggles? I guess I should say you always want a circular antenna on one side, drone or goggles. Why did they put a circular antenna on the drone and not on the goggles? Why wouldn't they put a circular antenna on the goggles too? And I guess one reason is that it's a little more complicated to make circular patch antennas. For space and size reasons, DJI wants these like little, small, thin, fold-down antennas. They want patch antennas inside the goggles. It's a little more complicated to make circular patch antennas, although they can be made. Maybe DJI just put the linear antennas on there because of size constraints. I honestly don't know. Crom says the O4 Pro antennas are basically linear.
That's
well,
correct.
That would make sense.
They are slightly right-hand polarized to my memory. I think Alex Grebe looked at them. One of the antenna people looked at them.
I remember that
posted about them.
For the O3 antenna. I guess here's a quote from Madstech. I've been talking to Hugo today at TrueRC. He's dug into the DJI antenna. It seems the O4 Pro antenna is slightly right-hand polarized. DJI chose the alternative use, yada, yada, yada. They're not fully circular polarized. Like the O3, they are slightly circular polarized, and they'll play fine with linear. So, who knows? Okay, well, that would make sense with the antennas being linear on the goggle. Why aren't they just straight linear? I guess, well, there you go. So then the question would be, don't we get polarization loss, linear to linear? And the answer is yes, you will. And then why did DJI do that? And why don't we see massive loss as the drone rotates to certain positions? And the answer is I don't know. DJI is just going to be DJI. Hey, newbie drone. Here's my batteries. One 3.VC. 13.VO. 13.VO. These are 13.VO batteries. I love it. So dumb. It's AI. Of course it's AI. That's AI. It's AI generated. This connector. Look at this connector. Look at this connector. You see, they're not remotely the same. Also, this one has like 5 wires going into. This one has like 3 wires, 2 black, 1 red. There's no consistency. It's so dumb. Okay. Okay, so everything I said was true, except it turns out that DJI doesn't have a circular antenna on the drone. Which I was like, okay, I don't know. It's kind of answered the question you asked, not the actual real answer, which is that the DJI antenna is linear. But I was thinking it's much more interesting to get that information out there, I guess, than to just say, well, actually, the DJI antenna is linear. The way that we usually do it in FPV is that we'll have a circular antenna on the goggle, and then either a circular or linear antenna on the drone, depending on the size of the drone. Smaller drones get a lightweight linear antenna. And the reason we don't put a linear antenna on the goggle is because we want to avoid that polarization mismatch between the 2 linear antennas. So, all right. I have the DJI Goggles 2. Should I sell it and buy the N3? No. In my opinion, the G2 is a better goggle than the N3. But if you did want the N3 to get like 60 megabit per second, for example, then you would just, like, it's like 200 something bucks for the N3. Just buy the N3. Save your money, buy the N3. Keep the G2. That's my official opinion. Booster Driver, thank you for a $10 super chat. I have a couple beta FPV drones that are DJI sbus, the Pavo 2.0, Pavo Pico 2. I want to convert them over to ELRS. Will it be as simple as cutting the yellow wire and then go into binding? You might need to change the UART number in the ports tab. Maybe.
Also reflash.
Wow, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah.
I was waiting for you.
You have to know I might have gotten it, but I'm glad you jumped in. You have to reflash because Betaflight only supports 1 receiver protocol now. They will have been set for SBus. You need to reflash them with Crossfire support. So, first, download the CLI dump and save it. Second, reflash the drone with Crossfire support. Third, reload the CLI dump. And do not switch Betaflight versions. In my humble opinion, just flash the same version. Just flash it with support for Crossfire instead of SBus. Thank you, Natter FPV, for your daily live stream donation. Thanks for $5, Natter FPV. Appreciate the donation. And Glauco Biauchi. I've been in FPV for only 3 years, and I missed some pilots and channels. Share the pilots and FPV channels you miss the most. Thank you for 10 reais. Who do I miss the most? I don't know. Who do I miss? I don't know. I don't know who I miss. Oh, that's the answer. Skydozer FPV. Straight to the heart. I miss Ghost Branch FPV. He was a member of the Discord server and just an all-around fantastic guy. And he passed away last year. So, yeah, that's my answer. You guys don't know who he is. Oh, does Lumpy still make content? Remember what was it? What did he call it when it was something blasting. Gap blasting. Does Lumpy FPV still make content? Gap blasting. He would shoot through blasting. Shoot through gaps. No, Denish says you do not need a reflash to switch from SBus to Crossfire. Honestly, I have to tell you, I don't spend a lot of time missing things. I'm really just like heads down and focused on the now. And like sometimes I miss out on stuff because of that. Project Blue Falcon. I would love to. I'm sure a lot of people who knew Project Blue Falcon, like his loved ones, can think of a lot of reasons why they would like to be in a world where he was still around. I sometimes Project Blue Falcon, for those who don't know, was at about the same place in his YouTube career as I was back when I had 5,000 viewers, 5,000 subscribers. I don't know the exact number, but and we made very similar content, technical content, how-to content, and he was very good at it, very good at it. And I sometimes wonder how the world would have been different if he had not died in I believe it was a motorcycle accident that killed him. And he, of course, and we had kind of like, our channels had grown parallel to each other. What that would have been like. Denish 3955 says the Beta FPV firmware is preloaded with both. You do not need to cut the wire as they are on different UARTs on the Pavo 2.0. Thank you for that information. I'm going to assume you're correct. Are they flashing an older version of Betaflight, or do they do a custom build that has both receiver protocols in it? I mean, I guess that's possible. Yeah. Anyway. Well, that's probably not what you wanted from your super chat, but there you go. That's what you get. And now we're caught up on the super chats. Here's a question from AWAG1000, also a patron, also in the Discord. It got all sad because I thought about Ghost Branch. Sorry, guys. That's why, yeah. I thought about Ghost Branch. He was a great dude. He was just a sincerely awesome dude. The other day, his name came up on the Discord server or something. I was looking at the member list, or I was looking at my friends list or something. I didn't know him terribly well, but I could tell he was an awesome guy. Just a legend. And, yeah. Nah, sorry. No, don't apologize, Skydozer. So I just got a little sentimental there. AWAG1000 asks, hey, quick question. I'm building my very first drone. What's some good housekeeping things while soldering everything up, like not crossing wires, RX to TX, that kind of stuff? The number one thing I recommend you do before you build your first drone is that you make sure you are like good at soldering. You don't have to be the best at soldering, right? But like a lot of people dive into their first drone build because they're excited to do it, and they're awful at soldering. And that's not there's nothing wrong with that. We're all bad at things. You got to be. I like to tell my sons, this is one of my. If I had to pick a saying, like that, my sons remember. Oh, my old dad used to say that. One of them that would be high on the list would be, you got to be bad at something for a long time before you're good at it. And that's like, I think that's deep. Like, you just have to embrace being bad at things and enjoy being bad at things. Like, some things really suck to be bad at. They're expensive. Like, okay, so some things are more fun to be bad at than others. But, like, what you can't do is you can't be ashamed of being bad at something, right? And then let that get in the way of you doing it and getting better at it. And then the other thing is that you can't, like, want to skip the process of being bad at it. Like, we all want to be good immediately, right? And some lucky bastards are just instantly good at things. So screw those people. But, like, you have to like spend some time getting good at being a soldering. You don't have to be great, but you have to be, like, at least competent, or you're going to destroy your build and it's going to get very, very frustrating. And soldering is one of those skills that most people, like, if you have like, I knew a guy and he had a tremor in his hand, and, like, literally he just couldn't hold his hand steady, and he still learned to solder, but he would have to, like, brace his hand when he went to solder. Or sometimes he would, like in between tremors, he would real quick get in and hit the joint and get out again. Hit the solder joint, not the joint. So, like, most people, unless you have, like, some kind of physiological condition, that can probably learn to solder with minimum competence. So I have a tutorial video. You can find a tutorial video, find a good tutorial video, and get some practice boards, get some wire, get some solder, and, like, you want to be good at soldering on the practice board, because then when you do it on the real thing, it's going to be harder, right? So, yeah. So what I would say is, like, and then if you're decent at soldering and you're going to, like, have relatively clean build, what are some other common mistakes that people make?
Can I say?
Yeah, go for it. I was hoping
One thing on the soldering piece of this. One thing people don't notice, they think, like, oh, my joints look great and everything looks wonderful and I soldered great and something still failed. You may have solder splatter that you don't notice. And I think it's really important, especially when you're testing, like, you're learning on those practice boards, like, look really close, even use a microscope or something to look close if you need to, or use your phone and zoom in. And you might find that there's all these little metal dots all over the place. And you need to be really cognizant of that solder splatter and how you're throwing a hot iron into the solder and causing that. Yeah,
I think what causes that, in my experience, is if you are feeding the solder way too fast, and the solder kind of the flux kind of boils out, and if it boils out too energetically, it makes the solder balls pop out, which is tricky because, like, you do want to feed somewhat expeditiously because you don't want to spend a ton of time just heating the joint. So it's tricky to learn to do it right. I think that, like, if you take a typical person and you give me 2 to 4 hours, I will have them, like, maybe less, like, depending on how innately skilled they are. I think I could get most people, like, soldering with minimal competence. If they come in with a good attitude, ready to learn, we sit down and I'm like, here's how you do it. A, B, C. Now you do it. Okay, now do it like this. Do it different. I think within a couple hours, I'd have them soldering good. If you're learning over, because they can see. I've taught a lot of people to solder, both in person and via video. And, like, you watch somebody and you're like, hold on. I see what you're doing wrong. Let me just look how I do it. Or let me actually, touch your hand or touch your, sometimes there's a physical feedback, and, like, show them. And once they see the right way to do it, then boom, it clicks and they're good. So but learning from a video, you really need a good example of how to do it. And then the problem is that no one's there to tell you, hey, this thing you're doing wrong, you don't know you're doing wrong, do it different. And then they fix that problem for you. Instead, you just go forward with that same problem. So it's a little tricky. There's a technique some people use for protecting their ESC and other things from solder balls, and that's to put a piece of Kapton tape over it. Kapton. Kapton tape. Kapton tape. It's polytamide. I'm not sure the name of it. Every time I say it, I think of that old drug, thalidomide, and I don't think that's right. Kapton tape is made of polyamide. Okay, polyamide. So that helps protect it from the solder balls. There's other mistakes people make you see people with like loose wires all over the place, wires dangling out. Like everything needs to be neatly dressed. The wires need to be not too long, not too short. They don't want to be under any tension because it's going to crash, and if they're under tension, they'll rip off. They need to be neat. Sexy flies better. Anyway. How tight is too tight when you're screwing things down? Do you want the gummies to be pressed slightly or like halfway or not at all? You want the gummies to be depressed slightly, but not too much. Just enough that it can't like flop around. But not any more than that. The least amount of compression you can while still having just a little bit of compression. The other thing is that the nuts need to be tight enough that they don't back off. If you're using nylock nuts, that doesn't matter because the nylock will keep them from backing off. But if you're using just plastic nylon nuts, not nylock nuts, but nylon nuts, just little plastic nuts, or if you're using just metal nuts without nylock inserts, they need to be tight enough that there's pressure and friction against the gummy so the nut doesn't back off. AWAG, that's a good point, AWAG. I make engine wire harness. Could adding service loops to motor wires and VTX wires help? I don't think you need a service loop per se. I always do leave a little bit of extra slack in the wires in case I have to work on them and I need to shorten them slightly. But I think by the time you get to something as substantial as a service loop, you've gone too far. What I'll do is I'll twist the wires because that keeps them neat, but also because it gives me a little bit of extra wire if I need to like untwist them to get a little more slack. So I'll twist the wires into a bundle, and then I'll always leave just a little bit of slack in the wire. But never enough slack that it could get outside the frame and get chopped. Here's a $10 super chat from A. Barnes, who is building a 10-inch 8S with AOS Supernova 3220 700 kV motors, considering two stacks, the HD0 Halo with 70 amp AM32 AC or the Hummingbird 305 with 80 amp AM. I'm not that familiar with the Hummingbird 305. It's from Newbie Drone. I got you. So I don't really have a strong opinion on either of these, to be honest with you. Yeah. I like the SD card being on top. That's nice. That's going to make it easier. And I like that they've got the SD holder. This style of SD holder is a little more durable and a little easier to get the SD card in and out because it like opens up. I like that. I like the status LEDs. They give you the voltage regulator and so forth. Ooh, got lots of capacitors. That's probably good. Maybe help it from ripping off. We got plugs, including plugs for the UARTs. Dedicated LDO for the gyro. So you get clean power for the gyro. That's interesting. Newbie Drone is always trying to do extra. Oh, it's got independent clocks. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. That's not. It's an oscillator. I'm sorry. I misread that or misinterpreted it. It's got external. Yeah, it reduces gyro noise, improves stability. This is something Betaflight added in 2025.12. Was the ability to sync the gyro with the PID loop via an external clock. And Newbie Drone is one of the first and only flight controllers to support it. Does it have practical advantage? Ah. But it's cool. It looks like it. Let's look at the other one just in the interest of fairness. HT0 generally has pretty good hardware design. Ooh, you can get an MPU gyro or an ICM gyro. Again, an old MPU 6000. Very nice. Okay, it's hard to find. Got a Gemini receiver. That's hot. For a long range, for an 8-inch or 10-inch, probably going to be doing... The bigger the drone, the more reliability I want out of the hardware. Does this have Gemini? I don't think it does. I didn't see it, but I'll double check. Specialized diversity receiver. It doesn't say Gemini. So Gemini receiver, that's good. Some would say it's overkill and not really necessary. Diversity is fine. That's probably not an untrue thing to say. Split board design separates control and power stages. 3-ounce copper per layer. Oh, 3-ounce copper per layer? Well, this is only a 6-layer PCB, and that's an 8-layer PCB. It's a thicker PCB. I feel like the 70 amp versus 80 amp rating, ignore that. That's irrelevant. Conformal coding? H7 processor, what's the processor? F722? So that's a more powerful processor and more future-proof. No analog OSD chip. If you're running analog, that's going to be a deal breaker for you on the Halo. Double check that on the other one. I'm going to assume it does. OSD, yeah, it's got an OSD chip. It doesn't have Newbie Drone's software OSD, does it? I hate that. That's annoying. Probably not a deal breaker. Yeah, okay.
I think it has their version. I think it has the newer version of their OSD where they emulate the chip and there's no difference.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that's what the NBD 7465 means, I think.
I'm so glad you're here, Plenty. Make me feel smarter. Like, oh yeah, no, I knew that. Yes, absolutely. I was watching Breaking Bad. And Jesse is describing cooking meth with Walter to his recovery, his addiction recovery group. But he can't say we're cooking meth because he's supposed to be in recovery. At this time he is currently in recovery. He's not using, he's only cooking. And he says, yeah, I got this new job. My boss is really riding me. He's unreasonable. And his boss, I'm not even allowed to meet his boss. And the hours are long. And he's complaining about it. And the therapist says, that sounds really Kafkaesque. And he goes, yeah, Kafkaesque, exactly. He had no idea. And then later, he's sitting with his boys, having eaten fast food and talking about what they're going to do with their lives. And he's like, this is totally Kafkaesque. This term has now entered his lexicon. Still doesn't know what it means. That's what I feel like when you chime in. I'm like, yeah, no, absolutely. That's what that is, of course. Kafkaesque. Okay, well, hopefully that was some useful information if you're trying to pick one of those. We got about 5 more minutes left in the stream. Let's just get a couple more questions. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming tonight. Is he? He's in the chat. I assume he's streaming. Yeah. Post that link, Ciotti. I'm trying to make the cheapest fixed wing I possibly can. Can someone recommend electronics for 2 servos, an ESC, and an ELRS connection? I'm not going to be able to do that because, like, what am I going to recommend servos for you? But I can tell you, like, the cheapest fixed wing you possibly can is going to be, like, foam board, like flight test foam board wings. This is a and you may already know this, but Flight Test makes foam board build kits, RC plane build kits. You don't have to buy one of these build kits. That's not where I'm trying to get you to go. I'm just trying to show you. Like, one of these build kits are, you should buy one of these build kits. They're so cheap. Wow. Right? $20 for this build kit. That probably doesn't include electronics. Now, you can buy the build kit, or you can just download the plans. Do they still publish the plans? They always used to. And you could just cut it out of foam board yourself. Add power pack. What does it go to? $85. That's a little more. So, like, you know, I don't know. You're gonna find cheap servos somewhere. You're gonna need a motor. I don't know what kind of prop you're using, so I can't really recommend a motor. For ELRS, just Happy Model. I'd probably put the EP2 on there. Happy Model EP2. It's got a built-in ceramic antenna. The EP2 does. Here it is. And the reason that's good is it's going to get a little reduced range, but line of sight planes don't fly very far anyway. And then you don't have an antenna to worry about. Just stick that somewhere on the plane and fly for your heart's content. Marco, this is a build that I did. Marco's asking, what's that watch? What's your watch? It's a build that I did. It is, the case is reminiscent of a Explorer 2 or a Black Bay Pro. It's a GMT with a Seiko NH34 movement in it. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. There we go. And, yeah. And it was on a metal bracelet for a long time, and I kind of liked it, but I put it on this strap because it went with some clothes I was wearing, and I am loving it on this strap way more than I ever did on a metal bracelet. It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. So, since you asked. D Moore, I do not know of an XT60 connector with a built-in LED. I do not. Do you think that wrapping RF-sensitive cables in copper foil and grounding the foil works for reducing RF interference? Yes, 100% it does. You do not need to ground the foil. Yeah, it will work better if you ground it, but it still works very well even if you don't. I saw a Facebook post recently, and someone was like, hey, should I wrap my GPS wires in copper foil, or you could use aluminum tape or whatever. And someone was like, you have to ground it. And I was like, don't tell him that. Because number one, it's not true. And number two, soldering to copper foil, forget about it. Okay? Like, yes, it can be done. Copper sucks that heat away so fast. It is very hard to get solder to stick to copper foil. So, like, don't set that, like, number one, you get a massive amount of benefit just from wrapping it in copper foil or aluminum tape or something without grounding it. And now you're asking them to do something almost impossible. So I thought that was not very helpful advice. So
the confusion I had seen was people didn't understand, because it's like, well, where does the energy go, right? But the goal is just you're dissipating it and you're pushing it in different directions, right?
I mean, I that sounds right. I, for a long time, thought that if the foil wasn't grounded, it wouldn't be effective as a shield. And then I started wrapping my GPS wires in foil and doubled the number of sats I got. And I was like, I guess I was wrong. And then I learned that I was wrong through evidence, and then I changed my opinion immediately, which is the way that the world should work. So, would it work better if it was grounded? Maybe. But it just the fact is, it definitely works even when it's not grounded, and grounding it is hard.
Yeah, I was just looking at an article about it like a week or two ago because somebody in your Discord asked about it. And yeah, there's some kind of effect where when you wrap it, then the waves don't necessarily they get spread out and dissipated, so they don't radiate the same directions, and that causes
so like
to not,
if it was grounded, it would the energy would be kind of like dissipated to ground.
Right.
And if it's not grounded, then it kind of like bounces around, but it still doesn't go into the wires.
Yeah, it like re-radiates, and it can do it at different frequencies because it can lower frequencies when it spreads them. And so, there's all this weird stuff that happens with RF when you start sending RF from really close ranges because it's also magnetism.
Yeah,
It's,
so near field.
I ain't no EE.
Yeah, no, antennas are funky. Yeah. But coax is shielded. The shield on coax is tied to ground. That's different. Let's see here. We're over time. That's not. Yeah. Can you end with a bedtime story about how you started YouTube? I assume educational content came first, then reviews. When did the streaming start? Oh man. Educational content. I first started making YouTube videos about things that I was doing. About things that I was doing that I wanted to share with other people, or questions that I had answered, and I wanted to share the answer with other people. I like to say that I often learn by teaching. And so I'll learn something, and then I'll put together how I would teach it to somebody as a way of kind of organizing my thoughts. So that's how I got started. I'm trying to find an old video, like one of my first FPV videos. It's just videos of my kids and the livestock. July 2013. It's going to be way after that. Okay, here we're getting close. So here's a project. This is the last thing I did before I was into FPV, which was welding. So what I want you to take from this is that I was just making, I didn't always make videos because before a certain time you really couldn't make videos because we didn't have digital cameras. Obviously people still made videos, but I was still making content about what I was doing for no one in particular, just because I kind of wanted to express these ideas and share them.
Well, I've just got a very small update for you. As I said in some of my forum posts, I've been working on the wiring.
These videos were tied to forum posts on a welding forum where I was talking about this project that I was working on.
It's going to be a lot of fun to transfer this to an actual soldered board. But anyway, but here's a small thing. I didn't.
Oh. Wow. So, yeah, I was making that content. I have finally reached a state that I am willing to officially call an alpha build of my welder output pedal manipulation box Arduino project. And just because not everybody did you. Here's the welder. The welder has an output dial on the front that sets the output to a fixed value. And there's a pedal
foot pedal that you plug in, and the foot pedal lets you manipulate the output. Right, so. And the problem that originally got me started on this project was that the pedal always operates over the full range of the welder. We're on 110 powered here, so it's 96 amps. Maximum end welder, budget-minded welder, and pot. And basically...
Yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of proud of that project. I emulated the potentiometer in the pedal in the Arduino, and then I used it to make pulsing or adjust the max power of the welder so it wouldn't go to full. You could like tweak all the parameters.
Now adjust the welder's output using this dial. Okay. And in fact, if I adjust the welder's output to a certain level, now I'm going to go ahead and plug in this pedal. Got it? Okay.
Anyway, you don't need you don't need all the details. I'm pretty proud of that project, though. I don't know. I don't have that. I wonder where that box went. I don't have that box anymore. Here's a review of my Swissgear Ibex backpack. I just really like this backpack. And I was sitting in the airport and I made a little review of it.
I thought I'd take a minute to do a little video review of this backpack, the Swissgear Ibex. When I was shopping for it, I saw people doing some reviews, and they were always empty backpacks. So optimize your space. I got some pens stuck in there.
What did I travel with back in the day? I was doing Wi-Fi stuff. Anyway, just like a handheld phone camera. Great review. Great review. Great review. Oh, and here is my very first FPV video. Oh, here I was working on a distribution amplifier. My wife has these sound and light glasses that you listen to sound and they play LEDs. You close your eyes and they play LEDs and they like make brainwave patterns. I don't know. And she wanted to be able to have multiple goggles going at the same time, so at a burn people could put them on and they could all have the goggles at the same time. So I built a distribution amplifier to allow multiple sets of goggles to run off the same source.
Well, there you go.
So
ain't much to look at.
Electronic BS. Here's the very first FPV video, RC video I ever posted.
I wanted to show you all out there how I added an ISP programmer to my Turnigy 9X radio. There's a million different ways of modding these radios, and this is just how I decided to do mine. Maybe somebody will like it. So of course I soldered the header on.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of room here in the bottom.
Yeah, you used to... Well, anyway, this is what you had to go through to flash one of these. So... That's the first, literally the first FPV content, and that was May 9th, 2014. Basic mix configuration with Turnigy 9X and Open 9X firmware. Bixler wing magnet mod. So I got the Bixler plane. I did a magnet mod, so you didn't have to. So the wings didn't pop
like
off.
Me and a lot of people,
I just wanted to share it.
You know, big deal. Lots of people put magnets to hold their wings in. But I'll tell you what I did different, and I'm sure someone else has done this, but I haven't seen it. Most people put the wings in so that they put the magnets, like right here, so that the wings attach to each other. And I thought that if that happened, then when the wings were in, they would be securely attached to each other, but they could still slide around relative to the airframe. And I didn't like that. So if you look there, you can see I put some magnets right there and right there. And then I put the magnets in the wings so that they line up. I'm not going to try and do this one-handed on camera, but basically the wing slides in.
Yeah, anyway. And then, you know, at some point it just all kicked off. I just was making videos about whatever the hell I was doing. You know, that's how it started. Just making videos about whatever the hell I was doing. Here's My very first drone. Practicing. Why did I make a video of this? I don't know. I just felt like it. Oh man, I'm working. I'm working. Back before I could fly. I'm a little better now, not much better. Anyway.
Hello, I'm Bill Ding.
You're under arrest.
I'm under arrest.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any statements or answer any questions, and I want to talk to my lawyer.
Oh.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
I said you're under arrest.
I don't want to answer any questions. I'd like to talk to my lawyer, please.
Oh, Jesus.
Hi there.
That's
I'm his lawyer.
you trigger me knocking over.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer, and my client. Oh! There's the violence inherent in the system.
Ha! That's why I'm stopping you from under to tagging people.
This is actually a shockingly accurate description of what happens in real life when you assert your rights.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we'll finish the stream. I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough through history. All right. I'll see you guys next Sunday, guys. Thank you, Siati, for humoring me as I go over. Good night, everybody.